Hello, I'm Elton Robinson with your January 27th grain and oilseed update. First, a report on Brazil from the Corn and Soybean Advisor. Farmers in Brazil feel the announcement that the U.S. will withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership will open the door for more Brazilian agricultural exports to the remaining participating countries. The withdrawal of the U.S. from the TPP is considered good news, at least in the near term, for Brazilian agriculture. The same could be said of Argentine agriculture as well, the advisor reports. The advisor says approval of the TPP would have given advantage to the U.S. by lowering the tariffs on agricultural products going into the TPP trading bloc. That advantage now will not happen, allowing Brazil to compete even more for those markets. Additional announcements by President Trump that he wants to reopen the North American Free Trade Agreement could be more good news for the Brazilian agricultural sector, the advisor says. If Canada and Mexico faced increased tariffs to ship their products to the U.S., they could retaliate with increased tariffs on American agricultural products going into Canada and Mexico. This in turn would make Brazilian products even more competitive going into those markets. And now on to exports. This summary is based on reports from exporters for the period ending January 19th. Wheat exports of 297,000 metric tons were down 25% from the previous week and 20% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were Nigeria, South Korea, Guatemala, the Philippines, and Mexico. Corn exports of 978,000 metric tons were up 6% from the previous week and 22% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were Mexico, Taiwan, South Korea, Colombia, and Japan. Grain sorghum exports of 124,000 metric tons were up noticeably from the previous week and 22% from the prior 4-week average. Primary destinations were China, Mexico, Japan, Nigeria, and Indonesia. Rice exports of 50,400 metric tons were up 29% from the previous week, but down 16% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were Mexico, Haiti, Japan, Canada, and the Dominican Republic. Soybean exports of 1.26 million metric tons were down 20% from the previous week and 22% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were China, South Korea, Mexico, and Tunisia. Soybean meal exports of 213,000 metric tons were down 21% from the previous week, but up 6% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were Pakistan, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Peru. Soybean oil exports of 10,000 metric tons were down 73% from the previous week and 66% from the prior 4-week average. The primary destinations were Canada and Mexico. Beef exports of 12,800 metric tons were reported for 2017. The primary destinations were Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Hong Kong, and Canada. Pork exports of 21,900 metric tons were reported. The primary destinations were Mexico, Japan, South Korea, China, and Canada. Well, that's it for this week's report. I'm Elton Robinson. See you next time.